Andy Littlejohn is walking through what's left of a hallway at the church. He's a volunteer firefighter, and this fire was personal.
You know, I got up here and I realized it was my church on fire. That does a little something to you right there.
Andy did what he could to help put out the flames, but there was no chance to save the building. It's a total loss. Church members will have to rebuild yet again.
Remodel it, hurricane comes, so you remodel it again. You just keep on getting back up, and then, you know, fire burns it down, and, well, you know, you just got to get up and do it again, I suppose.
The fire left them no choice. It raged through the building. Nearly 12 hours later, only a brick wall stood. The tin roof caved in and crumpled to the ground.
There is a hope here, a great big hope.
The pastor's wife got a call from the sheriff's office telling her about the fire. Despite the charred remains, she won't let it darken her outlook for the future.
And I'm grateful for that hope, because that's our only way to make it through, is our hope in God.
Warren School District has offered the use of its junior high building for the church to meet this Sunday. Even though they're grateful for their new home, the building is in need of a little cleanup.
We can rebuild again. The building is not the church, it's the people. And these are some godly, wonderful people that love God with all of their heart. And there's no problem here. We're going to rebuild, and there's no doubt in my mind.
Got a good, solid group of people here at the church, you know, and then in the community too. It'll go right back up.
In Warren, Megan Dillard, KFDM 6 News.
Oh yes, it's very hot.
It's like a sauna. Yeah. Sticky, yucky, nasty.
108 degrees.
Opening your car door. It's something you do several times a day between work and running errands. But just getting into the car in nearly 100-degree temperatures is a challenge.
It's very hot. Have to wait a few seconds while you even drive off.
And while your vehicle bakes in the sun all day, the temperature can climb past the boiling point.
We're going to check out exactly how hot these cars can get by looking through this thermal imaging camera. Whatever you see in blue is over 150 degrees.
225.
Glenn Johnson owns a service station in Beaumont. He's seen firsthand what happens when vehicles heat up and up and up.
The battery, your cooling system, your tires, you need to keep them properly. It's just as important in the summer as it is in the winter.
The heat can also cause damage to the equipment under your hood.
As you notice under the hood of a vehicle now, everything's plastic just about. Plastic radiator, plastic fan shroud, everything's plastic. And that's got to start deteriorating under the heat that we've been under.
Johnson says there are several things you can do to make sure the heat doesn't damage your vehicle.
When you get in the cars, crack your windows down and then turn your air on, and that helps blow the heat out.
Johnson also recommends mini inspections on your car. Check under the hood and for heat cracks on your tires. He says there's one other thing you can do.
When you are sitting in traffic or in line, is give yourself a little space between you and the car in front of you. That way you can get some fresh air instead of picking up all the heat off the car in front of you.
Advice that will serve you and your vehicle well in this extreme heat. In Beaumont, Callie Desmond, KFDM 6 News.
Backflips, horseplaying, racing underwater. Fun things kids enjoy doing in the swimming pool. But those giggles, splashes, and laughs can change instantly.
Well, her back was at the top, and her face was, her whole face was underwater.
7-year-old Emily Simmons was at a pool party last weekend in Beaumont, doing the things kids always do when they're in the water.
We just took our eyes off of her for 1 second, and she decided she wanted to go swimming without us. Very scary.
But during that 1 second, when the parents were not watching, Emily was.
I saw Kylie in it, and then I just jumped in and pulled her out.
Her eyes, her nose, around her mouth was a very dark purplish color. The rest of her body was gray.
There was this white stuff running out of her nose.
It scared me to death, and I just kept, I kept praying and saying, oh my God, don't take her from me.
Once an adult did CPR for several minutes, 3-year-old Kylie began coughing and crying. A good sign she was going to make it.
And that's what parents can also teach their children as they're learning how to swim, that it's not also for them, but they could also save a life, just like what happened this past weekend. That's just a great ending that could have been a tragic ending.
Sherry Pulliam is with Child Protective Services. She says if parents can't see their children, they can't save them.
Drowning is a silent death. A child's not going to be screaming, you're not going to hear a child when they're drowning. So a lot of times you're not even going to know that they're in trouble or they're in danger.
They're the most precious gifts that you have. And so to be able to sit here and look at her and know that I almost lost her makes me value it a lot more. I was very, very, very grateful to everybody.
A pool party that forever changed 2 parents and their young daughters. Children who taught adults a lesson that will last a lifetime. In Beaumont, Ashley Gaston, KFDM 6 News.
Can you say cheese?
Prison life for Lawrence Russell Brewer.
There's no life at all in here. It's like living in a cement storage shed.
A 60-square-foot cell on death row at the Polensky unit in Livingston.
Confined to a concrete cell for 22 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Secluded from the 300 death row inmates and the 2,500 other prisoners inside this razor wire fence who don't have a date with death.
All the time he sat in that cement cage that he's been there, and all the time he's had to think. I just cannot believe there's not some kind of remorse there. But it just shows he's different than us.
Thing is that the knife didn't exist.
Former Jasper County Sheriff Billy Rolls reacting to the interview with Brewer.
As far as I'm concerned, it's over, because I will not see him again. He did wrong.
The dragging death investigation was his life for years. Recently, he met with Brewer to make certain in his mind Brewer deserves to die.
He said on there, he said, I'm ready to go. I was there, I was a part of it, and that's what happens to people that do that. So he's ready to go, and I'm ready to get it over with.
Some days I'm wishing for a date to come, and some days I'm not wishing for a date. So now that it's here, I'm willing to accept it. You know, that's my punishment.
Brewer is scheduled to die by injection September 21st for the dragging death of James Byrd Jr. What are Brewer's views about the death penalty? They might surprise you.
I'm for the death penalty. I believe if you take a life, you should pay for it with your own life. If you're actually guilty of taking a life.
Brewer maintains he didn't take part in killing Byrd on June 7, 1998. The facts at his trial and the investigation contradict that.
This is a good out for me because I do not want a life sentence, period. Life with or without parole, I wouldn't be happy with that.
So Brewer waits for the day when he's escorted down this hallway and into the death chamber in Huntsville. He'll be strapped to a gurney, an IV placed in his arm. Brewer will get a chance to make a final statement before a combination of drugs, a lethal cocktail, flows into his body until he is pronounced dead.
Yeah, I'm glad it's about to come to an end, too.
Coming to an end, isolated in a room at a prison in Huntsville, about 100 miles away from a road where James Byrd Jr. suffered alone. The victim of a hate crime that made his name known across the world. A world still working to learn from what happened here in Jasper, Texas.